Hello, are you a student of online courses or an instructor of online courses or someone with an interest in that world? Because I'm going to talk in this video about how I think they've had their day. I personally have stopped making online courses and what I think could replace them. And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on that issue. So just a little bit of background on me. I'm Eve Williams. I hold Master of Music and Master of Arts degrees in songwriting and literature, and I've been teaching on Udemy since 2017. And it was really successful for me for a long time in several ways. It got me through COVID financially. I didn't have to worry about money at a time that people in my industry were really panicking about money. In fact, I had my knee replaced and I was off for 7 weeks, and Udemy got me through that. Skillshare to a lesser extent. That was when I had my first knee replaced. When I had my second knee replaced, that didn't happen. That passive income was starting to fail. Not only that, but I was able to create a community out of my courses. I have a monthly, completely free songwriting circle and a book club, and I've been fortunate enough to meet many of my students at those events. And so generally, I would say it was a success, but interest in online courses is declining, and ergo income from online courses is really falling. At one point, I was making about £2,000 UK pounds a month. Now, I'd be lucky to make 500. In fact, Skillshare, they've always been a car crash anyway. They're not a nice bunch of people to deal with. But they used to pay me about $1,000 US a month. Now that's down to $70 this month, about 40-50 UK pounds, which wouldn't fill my tank of petrol. And in Udemy, I'm getting something like 50 cents for some sales, including for my 32.5-hour English history course. And that wouldn't buy me half a postage stamp. And given the long number of months of research that go into a course like that, let alone the tedious process of actually creating it, which is very labor intensive, for those kind of returns, it's just not possible. So what happened? Well, I think people have screen fatigue after COVID. They now want that one-on-one engagement. They'd rather have private tuition in a lot of cases. You know, they want that human element, which I like to think I do also provide. And also during COVID, because a lot of people were getting into online teaching who hadn't done it before, it flooded the market. And some of the new courses weren't that high quality, so it became a race to the bottom for everyone involved in those platforms. Also, Udemy in particular started taking a larger share of the instructor cut of earnings. I only get 37.5% of sales on Udemy, unless it's through my own promotional codes, in which case it's 90%. But most of your sales, you'll be getting a very low proportion of what the platform makes. And so it's just becoming financially not viable. Some instructors are really successful at selling from their own websites and their own personal brand. If you have an extensive mailing list and you have a really strong community going, that's likely to work for you. I have to say my community is probably too small, even though they're really engaged, for that to be an option for me. I've tried that and it hasn't been so successful. I've tried events rather than courses via Zoom, and it's really only free events that really have many takers, so that also hasn't really panned out as a way to go forward. So if you've been teaching online and you're wondering what's gonna replace it, what do we do next? Now, in my case, it's particularly important because I have very severe rheumatoid arthritis. I have had quite a lot of surgery, and I actually had a heart attack in July. And when I had my heart attack, I ended up completely stony broke, because when I'm not teaching online, I'm teaching in person, and being self-employed, when I don't work, I don't get paid. And so that was just time out of work. And unfortunately, the income from online courses wasn't really enough to cover my outgoings after I had the heart attack. So I really urgently need to replace that income. So after a lot of research, a lot of chatting to people, a lot of trying to find out what's working, these are basically the ideas that I have. If you have any other ideas, I would be really, really interested to hear them. If you're a student and you find something that works for you that is an alternative to online courses, then let me know. Now, the thing is, there is this little equation in life, time versus money. If you need more time, you're going to lose money. If you need more money, you're going to lose more time. While passive income is the dream, I think having to give up some time in order to make money is pretty much essential. So I'd mentioned before that events hadn't always been completely successful, but I've decided they are worth looking at because people like that one-on-one interaction and they like to think that they're part of something bigger, and they like to just talk about what they're learning rather than maybe learn it from a video and internalize it and not be able to share that knowledge or that experience. So I think that is possibly a way forward. And perhaps looking at teaching in other formats, ebooks, for example, podcasts, I think are really big at the moment, and the whole idea of audio going forward. Also YouTube, and that's actually what I'm putting a lot of my time into at the moment. I monetized my YouTube channel and putting content out there. You do need to have a strategy for that and put some thought into researching what are the trends in your area of expertise and the things that people want to hear about. Really, you need to have built up an audience to do any of these things, and that's where I think, the long-term involvement with Udemy, like I've been on there for 8 years, since 2017. Skillshare just always been a catastrophe to deal with. Just those contacts that you've made and those relationships that you have with people on there that has built interest in your work is a starting point to spring on to new things. But I know that a lot of instructors at the moment are kind of demoralized by the loss of money, and people are making good quality courses and putting them on there. That may be a way to go for some people, so long as you find a niche that isn't saturated. And that's the really, really difficult thing at the moment. So I would actually keep making courses, only I think I've pretty much made every course that's going to sell at the moment, and I just can't afford to put the time into courses that aren't going to sell, even though, the process of researching them and making them can be quite enjoyable, and it's learning for me as well as for the students. So if there are any products that you think you'd be interested in seeing, or events, or any other way forward, how we can get out of this situation and put our teaching expertise to use in a different way, do let me know.